Welcome to the ROI Masterclass, the podcast where vision meets strategy and bold moves create measurable results. I'm Liat Siegel, interior designer and ROI strategist with 17 years of experience. I help businesses transform properties and ideas into high-performing assets. This show is specifically for real estate investors, hospitality operators, and boutique developers who aren't afraid to take risks, challenge the status quo, and demand a return on every decision they make. Each and every week, we talk with innovators and leaders across industries about the strategies and the insights and really all the unconventional thinking that turns potential into profit every single time. If you believe that smart design, decisive leadership, and strategic risk are the keys to real ROI, you're in the exact right place. Let's dive in. Today's guest, Benjamin Greenberg, is a recognized innovator in real estate data analytics and valuation technologies. As Director of Operations and founder of Four Corners Valuations, he has led the creation of proprietary valuation writing tools and reports that deliver unprecedented speed, accuracy, and cost efficiency in the industry. His work integrates standardized processes, advanced analytics, and quality control to streamline large-scale portfolio valuations, market studies, and site selection projects. Benjamin and his team have provided support for their clients across the United States and in more than 65 countries globally. A co-author to Mexico's federal valuation standard law in 2016, Benjamin has consistently leveraged data-driven solutions to modernize valuation practices, setting new benchmarks for client service and operational efficiency, while conforming to the highest global standards. Thank you so much for joining us, Benjamin. I'm really excited to hear all about your background, your story, and everything that you do, because there's so much in there.
I'm very happy to be here with you.
Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are today, and what makes you stay.
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, thank you very much for having me here with you today. It's very excited to join you. I'm very fortunate to start off by saying my father is an MAI designated appraiser. He has the FRICS, he has the ASA, he has the SRA designation. All those designations essentially means that is, particularly with the MAI and the FRICS, it's the equivalent of what a doctorate would be in real estate valuation. I grew up in that industry, him always being the appraiser. And so as early as I can remember, on the weekends, after school, whatever it was, I was in the office, and the way to put a kid to, keep them busy is back then there was no digital, right? And so we would be in the conference room doing the stickers with the numbers onto the photos to identify comps, and then pasting the pictures into the reports. That's really my earliest connection to the valuation industry. And so because of that, I've seen the evolution of the industry, but more importantly, the lack of evolution in the industry. And that's really what got me into valuation. I didn't start my career in valuation. I actually went to Los Angeles went to film school and had a semi-successful career in television before realizing that that's not who I ethically wanted to be. I had the opportunity to work with some of the finest in the industry and realized quickly that is not who I could be. And so I took my experience from there into the real estate industry, and people always question, how do you compare the two? Totally different industries, right? But it really is not. It's really, there's so many similarities between film and real estate. Your producer is your developer. Your exec producer is your financier. Your architect is your director, right? There's all the same types of elements between the two. And so that's really how I've applied it. And so I'm not an appraiser after all this journey. My job that I've set out for myself was to work on the business. So that way, those who work in the business can do it more efficiently and with more purpose. And that's really how I got to where I am today.
So tell us what your day-to-day looks like. What is it specifically that you do, and what kind of ROI do you bring to your clients?
What I'm really proud of with the structure that we've developed within Four Corners is we start every single day with a production meeting where the team comes together and talks about all the projects and all the deadlines that are coming that day, the next day, within the week, and talk about concerns that they're having in the analysis, and get the peers together to communicate and work through the valuations and set their goals for the day, week, et cetera. But Directly after that call, we have an agency call. The agency call is the team that I've assembled that works on the business to, again, create those efficiencies. We as an agency, we sit in on that production call every single day as an objective to listen to what their issues are to try to create the solution. And so within that agency, we have dedicated teams specifically to graphics, to video production, to content creation, to social media. We have a CRM specialist who all he does is architect out automations and flows within the CRMs. And we have our full-time developers, and we have our admin team, right? And why do we have all that? Why do we invest in all that? It's first to give the ROI to the appraisers so they don't get stuck in the side of the business that slows them down. And so they have more time interacting with the clients and working for the clients in the analysis. But then secondly, it's the tools that we've developed and created and have been very fortunate to receive the acceptance of what it is that we're doing to create efficiency in the actual business of valuation. So what really makes us unique is that we own our own valuation tools that we've developed. We have partnership with the National Database of Real Estate Property Records that our tool sits on top of. And by doing that, we have essentially reduced the time that an appraiser takes to actually appraise the asset by more than 80%. And so they're a lot more efficient. And so we use machine learning to help place data. But what we absolutely do not do and don't have intention today to do is use the AI or whatever we want to call the LLMs or whatnot to replace humans. What we've worked very diligently on is creating tools that give our professionals the ability to get directly to the analysis, which is where the magic really happens, where the impact for their clients and the ROI for the clients come in. So as such, how we come around is our average turn time for our valuations are 5 business days, where the typical turn time in the industry today in a slow market is 3 to 4 weeks. And I assume September hits and interest rates drop. We're going to start seeing 4 to 6 week turn times in our industry. And just that alone is a huge ROI to our clients because so much can happen during that due diligence phase that they're reliant on the appraisal community to be responsive. And so much can happen in that time. Nobody predicted 9/11. Nobody predicted COVID. Nobody predicted floods or storms or anything like that. And these are things that can create impact that we can't predict. And the longer those periods are, the more opportunity we provide for something to go the opposite direction of what the parties anticipated. So that was really important to us. So we deliver reports in 5 business days, but with that efficiency of time comes cost savings. And so we apply that as well to our clients. So where the typical valuation report starts in commercial real estate starts at $3,500 to $10,000, we're providing valuation analysis for as little as $350. That's not every type of report. And that's a very, that's a specialized report for one purpose. And we have another report that starts at $600 for evaluations for banks, where we're doing hundreds of those on a monthly basis. And then we have our certified valuation. Our certified valuation is a third of the cost of what it is in the market, right? And so our why was very simple. 60% of commercial real estate in the United States is owned by non-institutional retail owners. Those are your doctors, those are your accountants, those are your restaurateurs, those are your body shop owners. Those are the people who run Main Street America. And then there's the 40% that are the institutional guys that everybody else is building out systems for and leaving the rest of Main Street behind. So today, what does Main Street have? What are their options? One, it's to go buy the tools and buy the data and forget the cost of education, the time of education. You're $30,000 a year just in data and tools alone. That's not an option for most. Two, it's the appraisal. $3,500 to $10,000 base for an appraisal. So that's only going to happen at times at major events, for a death, for a acquisition, a disposition, a legal purpose, whatever it is. And it's really limited to those moments rather than whenever you want or need. Zillow is one of the most visited websites out there because people can actually have a touch and feel of what their asset is worth today.
Right.
People aren't going there to shop for new homes. They're going there just as much to shop for new homes as they're trying to understand what their basis is worth. And commercial real estate is one of those assets that have such great value, but people don't have that type of access to data. And then the last option is going to a broker and listing your property for sale, and whatever it sells for, that's what your value is, right? And so often you find that the appraised value and the acquisition price vary very much too, right? And, because there's that disconnect. And that disconnect is we all hope that the brokers that we are dependent on are ethical and have standards, but they also have an interest for their own revenue too, right? So how often are they going to say, both parties are going to say, yep, let's drive down the price to the actual value? Not very often. So that was our why. And that's really been our mission and what we've stuck to. And our goal is to saturate the market with qualities and standard valuation products at an affordable price to make sure that those 60% retail owners have the ability to and desire to understand their value on a constant basis, because it's really hard to manage your assets if you have no idea what your value is and the projection of your value. And right. So that's really where we came from.
I mean, there's so much depth and thought that went into not just what you deliver, but how you deliver it. And we know that when you can provide things faster, then that's where the real ROI comes in, when we're able to systemize and we're able to really scale our projects and our clients' ROI.
So two weeks from now will be about my 5-year anniversary from getting COVID. Unfortunately, we can't predict these events, but unfortunately, I got hit really hard. Fortunately, I made it through, but 4 months on oxygen support. I had two options: dig down or dig out. And my way to dig out was I was laying in my bed, struggling and fighting to breathe, and just thinking about my life and where I was. And what I truly realized was my whole life had at this point been focused around those institutional guys and treating everyone else as institutional owners. And that's great. It made for a very great career for myself, but I wanted to do something more. And so that's really when I started to go down this path and developed our technology tools, because my goal was to get out of my bed and be able to walk again and then run with a new product. And that's where we are today.
That is the mother of innovation, isn't it? When your back is up against the wall and you're kind of forced to make a decision and decide, do I want to thrive? Even at the state that you were in, to think about business and think about your mission and your purpose rather than the illness and how difficult things were for you at that moment is a testament really to the entrepreneurial spirit within you.
No, thank you. And I, at that point, I knew I couldn't be the type of advisor I was to my clients because I couldn't remember one moment from the next. I couldn't physically get there. And I was on a cane. I needed a cane to walk for a whole year, right? So when I literally say I went from trying to learn to walk again to running, I truly mean it. And it's just important for me to, in that next stage of this career, if I'm going to hit bottom, I know what bottom feels like. Now I want to come back, but with a new purpose.
With a vengeance.
Absolutely.
So what does it mean for your clients and for the end user to have a proper valuation and to have your strategy implemented?
When I look at it, I look at what it means to my daughter, because the people who were supporting, and The institutional guys get a benefit just as much as the retail guys from what it is that we're doing. But those hardworking individuals, as I said, those doctors, accountants, et cetera, they work their tail off to be able to pass something on to their next generation, right? And again, if you have no idea what that value is and how to leverage it and how to grow it, you're just stuck. And unless you can afford the appropriate advisory around you, you just tiptoe into that world and you maintain and manage what you can until you can afford the next. Well, these types of tools just give the ability for those property owners to be able to leverage their investments more frequently, more accurately, more with much more support and everything in between.
With it, they're able to get the proper valuation. They're able to then maximize their returns, their profitability, and then scale
Absolutely.
as well if they're wanting to build multiple properties or that same templatize to build it out. Because otherwise they would be leaving so much money on the table.
Absolutely. And it's just, there's that asset management side. There's so many reasons to know your value. I mean, we all check our credit score regularly. We all check our stock accounts regularly. We all check our Zillow account regularly. We're all checking our bank statements regularly. But commercial real estate is one of those assets that have one of the most greatest values. But as an industry in general, we have no idea what that value is until moment of need. That was our goal, is to get rid of that moment of need and give the ability to achieve that for everyone.
So would you say that you're basically a window and transparency into what the worth of their asset is?
No, for sure. That's exactly who appraisers are, right? The appraisers are the conduit between data and analysis.
Yeah, and real world.
And specifically, when you're a designated appraiser, which is who we surround ourselves with, you really go through rigorous education and training to get there. And so part of this journey was, as you mentioned in my introduction, my partners and I, who I'm very lucky to say, my father, from mom and pop shop through corporate America, we've stayed together as partners. As you know, we built a business and sold it to Deloitte to start their real estate practice in Mexico, and we stayed in there together. We were asked by Duff and Phelps to open up their practice in Mexico. We stayed partners together. Even today, we're still partners together. And so during that period, my father and I, we had this really special, distinct opportunity to be invited by the Mexican federal government to write the equivalent of USPAP, the Uniform Standard Professional Appraisal Practices, which is the U.S. law for standards and ethics. And we were commissioned by the federal government of Mexico to write the equivalent. So not only did I get this incredible chance to write the federal law, I got a chance to surround myself with the who's who of valuation and bring together the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors along with the Appraisal Foundation and Appraisal Institute and 7 or 8 different global and organizations to stand by our side and work with the governing bodies to understand the power of standards and ethics within the valuation process. And that is exactly what we apply to everything that we've built, because we wrote the standard. We better apply it to ourselves, because we have a bullseye on our back if we don't.
Yeah.
And so that's really been a big driver behind what it is that we do, is that everything has to stand to what we wrote.
Absolutely. And I say oftentimes that in real estate, things can be very cutthroat. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's the standards and ethics that kind of hold your feet to the fire and to make sure that we're constantly deviating back to the right place. And I think there needs to be more of that realignment to good and ethics and good people, being the driving force really for change within real estate. So how do you see, with everything that you do, design impact, or the way a property, the amenities, the way that it's set up How does that impact return on investment?
Sure. So before developing these tools, which are meant for, every type of commercial property, a big portion of our background has been in resort development throughout the world. We've done work in 68 countries globally, and obviously starting off in Mexico, where we built a great reputation being advisors to the developers. And, from that, we've done far more than development projects, resort development projects, but focus on your question first. So how do we apply the design element and all that? It's, our job as valuation advisors is not always to give the value, but the actual value itself, but how do you achieve the value and the roadmap to get there? And you do that through market studies and feasibility analysis and highest and best use studies and all that goes behind it. In our careers, we've supported at least 100 major master plan developments throughout the world in those analysis in order to develop world-class resorts or communities or whatever it is. And every single development is unique because coming back to where I started my career in film, right? You have an opportunity to paint the portrait the way you want it to look, and right. You get to decide who is your market. And so what we do is we work with those developers to test and beat up their business plans to make sure that they are seeing it from all angles, and they have deeply vetted the data to identify how many 2 bedrooms versus 4 bedrooms and how many hotel rooms versus residential, and what are the amenities that they should have or not. And some really good examples of those is, particularly if it's a high-end community and it's international, what are the most important things to that market? Well, it's security. And security means physical security and physical security when we're talking about health, right? So one, are you creating the right elements of security for the project that make people feel sound? And second, do you have the right medical staff on campus? And so we were really behind the push in many of these developments to create private medical clinics on campus where they have full-time nurses and a full-time doctor on staff, where, the people who live in that community don't have to go to the doctor down the street. It literally is down the street from them now. They don't have to, go find a local doctor. And when they do, you have an advocate at your side, right? And then another good example of that is golf course communities. And we've been very fortunate to work on, many of these golf course communities. And most of the times it comes to us with the master plan laid out prior to us having a participation in the project. And so often we force the developers to go back to the drawing board with their architects, because what we see, particularly with the golf architects, is they want the best. Right? So they're going to absorb the best property. So as I mentioned, it's more 99% of the time we've received the master plan before we got involved when it comes to these types of projects. And so we had this a really unique opportunity to work with Tom Watson on a development project on the East Coast. And, it was a really fun experience to actually be out there in the field with Tom, one of the greatest golfers of all time. And there's all that, but also one of the finest architects of golf courses. And we were standing in this most beautiful spot on the property, right off the river, with this incredible view of this hillside going up to it. And then there was a property that was right behind it that was built by President Eisenhower, that was part of the property. And he's like, this is it. This is where we're putting the most important hole. I said, that's great, Tom. You can have this much, right? Of course, he didn't know how to respond to me. I said, Tom, as much as you think this is the most prime piece of real estate, you are 100% correct. And that's why you need to make sure that the developer has the ability to create the return on investment off that land, because at the end of the day, what you're designing is just an amenity that 9 out of 10 times doesn't make profit. So you need to respect that this is the most pristine piece of land, and we are going to get you into it, but as the amenity. And it's tough to give those types of messages, but at the end of the day, those messages are truly appreciated and well received, because at the end of the day, it affects the ROI.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And having the key players in the beginning, the strategists at the beginning of the project, is so vital that I think most people miss out on. Having the designer, the architect, everybody, the appraiser, the evaluator, everybody who has make a mark and say, okay, this is how we should strategically position the property in order to have the maximum return on investment. That is where the market strategy comes in. That is where understanding who it's built for and how to set it up for them is vital. And I think most people just hit the ground running with renovations or building without having that in place. Yes, people will do evaluations and they'll run the numbers or whatever, but I don't think it's as integrated as it should be with execution.
Right. And if you build it, they will come is a great tagline, but it doesn't always work.
That's right. That's right. And maybe they will, but right. What's the return? Are you maximizing that return? Are you getting the greatest return? So they'll come, but will they come bearing, loads of cash?
And what we always preach to our clients is it's about the absorption. The quicker the absorption, the higher the return. Your ego may say, I want this, but it may take you 10 years to get there. Mm-hmm. And if we bring you down to reality and put it into the market like this, and you can sell out the entire project in 6 years versus 10 years, and you can put that money back to work quicker, you're going to make the same returns as if you had it up here. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we work diligently with our clients to educate them on, is that single word, which is absorption.
Amazing. So when you work with developers, architects, and even golf designers, how do you navigate the differing of opinions and everybody having their own idea of what works?
I think one of the things that really is unique to our group, and what I think is one of the biggest strengths of our groups, is that we've now worked in 68 countries around the globe. And there's very few places that have the access to data the way that we do here in the United States. And for that reason, when people ask me, how do you perform work in other countries? My response is, you need to have dirty sneakers. You need to go back to the basics. You need to, what I grew up in, which was actually looking at the picture and having to search and identify and place it there. There's value to that. There's a lot of value to having that direct access and knowledge versus depending on a machine to identify it for you. Yes, absolutely. We're building analytical tools that are driven by technology and to get to the solution quicker and faster. But with our platform, absolutely not will you see in any time in the near future for us, AI driving the analysis. We leave that to the professional who went through the years of education to get those designations, have that opinion, because that is what the clients are paying for.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that you let the data drive and inform what you should be doing, so that you can inform everybody that's working on the team, hey, this is what the data tells us. Right. This is what we need to do in order to have the best results possible.
Absolutely. And you need to understand how to analyze it, because at the end of the day, when something goes wrong, they're not going to sue an AI bot. They're going to sue you.
Right.
You have to know what's in that document.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
I love it. Can you share with our audience one piece of actionable advice that they can take away to maximize their property value? Stay
informed, and don't be dependent on those moments of need, because that's when there's a sense of desperation of getting it together. Be prepared. Know what documents are necessary at any moment, and find advisors that can support you ongoing. And there's so much more and greater return than calling that appraiser once in a while who you don't have a relationship, that you don't have a rapport with, we don't call ourselves appraisers. We call ourselves valuation advisors, because it's important to have that communication. It's important to have that support. It's because if everybody knew how to come to that number, there wouldn't be a whole profession built around it. And so find your support, hold on closely, and stay connected and be informed.
Amazing. Yeah. You have to take a proactive approach, right? So that you're never caught off guard.
Right.
I love it. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your insights with us. We will share your information in the show notes. Can you tell our audience how they can reach you?
Absolutely. Four Corners Valuations. You can find us on the web at 4cv.com, fourcv.com. You can always email us at info@4cv.com. And always happy to support you. We're licensed in all 50 states and
beyond and globally. Amazing. Thank you so much, Benjamin, for being with us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Leah.